The saying goes, everything is bigger in Texas. Well, that includes the fight over illegal immigration. Enter Texas Governor Greg Abbott.
Thanks for inviting us inside the Texas government.
Pleasure to have you here.
He has a Texas-sized battle on his hands, not just at the border, but in Washington, D.C.
Joe Biden has a requirement under the Constitution to secure our national security. He's utterly failed at that.
And so Abbott has taken matters into his own hands. He's building a wall in a handful of border counties. The state has its own border czar. He's bussed illegal immigrants out of Texas and into liberal sanctuary cities. And his Operation Lone Star program has led to 500,000 illegal immigrant apprehensions and the seizure of almost 500 million lethal doses of fentanyl.
Illegal immigration has gone down in the state of Texas by 72%. At that very same time, it has increased in California, Arizona, and New Mexico by 24%. So it shows that what we are doing is working.
But the Biden administration says Texas has overstepped their authority, especially when Abbott installed razor wire in Eagle Pass or floating barriers in the Rio Grande. At the center of the illegal immigration fight here in Texas is a law backed by Governor Abbott giving state law enforcement agencies the power to arrest illegal immigrants. The Biden administration is fighting it, and most likely this will end up at the U.S. Supreme Court. While that works its way through the legal system, the tension mounts between the state of Texas and the feds.
I know this term of civil war, but in other words, skirmishes between the Texas law enforcement and the federal government. Are you concerned about that at the border if Biden gets another term?
Let's say I'm resolute about what Texas is doing.
How far will Texas go here? Because you can go pretty far.
Well, our goal is to make sure that we defend our border to the point we are able to completely reduce illegal crossings into the state of Texas.
But does that mean going into Mexico? Certain Republicans, like former President Trump and Ron DeSantis, have floated the idea of carrying out attacks on drug cartels inside Mexico. In the case of Governor Abbott, he officially called this an invasion. So according to Article 1, Section 10, Clause 3 of the Constitution, that means a state can engage in war if an invasion happens.
Have you thought about, is it off the table that you would go and get rid of these drug cartels, certain ones within Mexico, actually going into Mexico?
So I've already declared the drug cartels as terrorist organizations, and that authorizes law enforcement to take extra action against it. And you can have a war without actually invading a country. The war would not be against Mexico.
The war at this moment is here on the homeland, and one of Abbott's biggest and gravest concerns is those from the Middle East coming over that are on the terror watch list. Some of them are known, many are not. And just as much of a concern to Abbott are Chinese men of military age illegally entering the country.
Last year, there were more than 24,000. In the first part of this fiscal year, there's already another 22,000. Right. And so there's basically a Chinese military equivalent in the United States of America. And once again, no one knows what these people are up to.
Of course, those aren't the only ones coming over. There are families who are seeking asylum and a better life here in America and are desperate to get away from horrible conditions.
Some people will say, well, you need to have compassion. Others will say, well, wait, law and order, making sure there isn't chaos, is compassionate.
Well, chaos obviously is not compassionate.
Right.
But also what is not compassionate is the federal government of the United States enticing women, children, and others to be sexually assaulted by the drug cartels, physically abused, sometimes murdered by them, or enticing them into a situation where they drown trying to cross the river. There's nothing compassionate about a deadly border. There is something compassionate, however, about order in society. And what Texas is trying to achieve is order in our society.
In the meantime, Abbott's battle against the federal government rages on. David Brody, CBN News, in Austin, Texas.
Thanks, David. Gordon?
It's incredible we can't defend our own border, that we can't actually tell these people that, no, you're not going to be welcome here unless you go through our designated process. You just can't cross a river and suddenly enter into the land of freedom. Our immigration laws just flat don't work that way. It's taken me a long time to figure out what in the world the administration is up to. What's their interest in this? You know, at the start, it was some kind of campaign slogan, what they were going against what Attorney General Sessions did in separating migrant families, where children were taken from their parents, which is absolutely horrific, should have never happened. And I thought it was some kind of campaign thing. But now, in the years following, what in the world are they doing? And if you want to make the argument they're trying to increase the census numbers, because the census doesn't count voters, it counts people. And so if you're trying to say, let's have our urban areas have a greater weight in Congress, it'll be one way to make sure we take control of the Congress. But that's a very long game. That doesn't happen until 2030 when the new census. So it still doesn't make any sense to me. Why in the world would you not enforce the laws? And if you want to say for political reasons, well, we're trying to get new immigration reform through Congress and we can't get anything through Congress, enforce the current laws on the books. And I agree with Governor Abbott. There's nothing compassionate about encouraging people to take the horrible journey here. And we've had these reports on this show for a couple of years now of what they go through, the number of times that they face death, and only at the very end for women and children to drown in that river because they feel that they're invited to come into the United States. There's nothing compassionate about any of that. This is a horrible situation, and the administration needs to be held accountable for what they're doing, because it's quite evident they're doing it intentionally.